Hello, this is Christopher Ian Chenoweth. I'm speaking about current events in a spiritual light. This is part 2. Let's talk about bailouts. There's a lot of talk about that recently. When I was going to church this morning, I heard them just screaming on the radio about bailouts, complaining. There were a few that liked the idea. Most were upset. My friend, we have all been bailed out. Now, you think back on your life, you have been bailed out many times. God has bailed out me many times, often. Sometimes we knew it was happening, but most of the time we didn't. But either way, disaster was diverted. Why, we have been rescued from bankruptcy, real bankruptcy. Bankruptcy of spirit, bankruptcy of opportunity, bankruptcy of ideas, bankruptcy of friendship, bankruptcy of love, bankruptcy of health. Of course, we have free will to accept or reject God's bailout. Now, I have been bailed out 2 major times in my life that I can think about. One time, many years ago, I was in broadcasting. I was quite successful. And almost overnight, boom, it was over. And I thought, wow, what in the world am I going to do now? And I look back on that and I think, thank God that happened. Then later on, I had a huge ministry. And almost overnight, bam, it was over. And I thought, wow, what am I going to do now? In every case, God bailed me out, and it was so much better than it could have ever been had the status quo been maintained. And I pray that this is happening with everyone that receives the positive daily inspiration. Even though changes may occur, I pray that with God, that the best is yet to come. There is a lot of talk about the economy today. The gas prices, even though they're down right now, they were up so much last year that it shocked American society, so much so that it has almost killed the American auto industry. In today's Daily Inspiration, I'm recording this on Sunday, I talk about a cemetery that has raised its burial cost and blamed it on the cost of living. Despite the cost of living, have you ever noticed how popular it remains? Foreclosure. I pray instead of foreclose, I pray that it's open. I pray for every person going through severe change that it is new doors of opportunity being opened by God. New paths. I know of people that are almost forced to relocate and go to a different area of the country where jobs are, where they can find low-cost living. And they're doing this. And many are writing me at the beginning of this process and saying, you wouldn't believe how many friends that I've met, how full my life seems to be. And they say how funny this is because at the old place I hardly ever saw anyone. And I have to admit I was alone. I'm hearing that over and over again. I said on the television broadcast a couple weeks ago, a report on CNN of a long study on happiness and how they reported that experiences more than possessions bring happiness to human beings. And I pray for every person that is going through a dark night of their soul that they have more God-given experiences come to them. God can bring wonderful friendships, wonderful new fun into our lives. And this is 1,000 times more than the possessions that we have owned in the past. I would myself rather own experiences than possessions. Queen Elizabeth I, who was the richest woman in the world at that time, on her deathbed, she said this, "All my possessions for one more moment." We have to realize that we're rich because we have moments. We have life. We're walking through the tunnel and we're waiting to meet our best friends that we've ever known. Wonderful life experiences, that real laughter will be ahead. You hear a lot today about the credit crisis. Well, there is, and some say that is the whole problem. But your credit is always good with God, and you have open lines of credit. God will bring people into your life that you need. God will give you the credit of receiving divine ideas. You know, the best things that have ever happened to me have been the divine ideas. When I had those 2 huge bailouts in my life that I talked about yesterday, what got me out of that? God-given divine ideas. This whole ministry was a God-given divine idea. Let's talk about jobs. Jobs. When you are out of work, a lot of people face that in the beginning with ostrich faith. Ostrich faith is where you stick your head in the sand and you say, "Oh God, make it go away." But like the ostrich, it's kind of foolish because the small head's in the sand and the giant body is out, and the ostrich thinks that he's hiding, but he's not. Well, we do this in other ways. We go into job interviews, but we're covered inside with fear. And we actually project that out. Now, hear me, my friend. Fear repels. Faith attracts. When you have faith working inside of you, you're like a magnet for your good. I want you to think of 2 words, wonderful, as in wonderful life, and wounderful, where you are covered, instead of the wonder covering your life, you're covered with wounds. You know what the difference is between wonderful and wounderful? It's one you. See, you make the difference on whether the day is good or bad by the thoughts that you're carrying around with you. Well, we know that there are changes that are going to occur. Many jobs are going to change, new avenues, new career paths. Many are going to need to reinvent themselves. I have reinvented myself many, many times. I've often called this ministry a school of change, and it is. Many people that I talk with, they want to go back to what was and hold on to it, even though many times it's no longer there, as in old jobs. You can't fight tomorrow's battles armed with yesterday's memories. You've got to let tomorrow be tomorrow, not a rehashed yesterday. I pray that as you go forward in life, you walk with God, that it is a trinity, the 3 of you, the power of 3, you, God, and your job interview. And you'll see that you have the greatest success that you've ever had.